Hi, so today I'm sitting with Todd Scott, the owner publisher of the NBR newspaper. Todd, you've been with the NBR since around 2008, I understand, and you research and you live and breathe business and have got a good finger on the pulse. So I was hoping to get an understanding of what are you seeing in the marketplace at the moment with relation to everything that's kind of hitting the fan.
Chaos, fear, but opportunity. I mean, I think that's what we've got to look at is that in a crisis, you cannot pass up the opportunities that will come your way. And you say that you're with, but we're actually obviously not in the same room. That would be not good social distancing. I'm actually sitting in my motorhome at the moment, which is parked up at home. But last week I was actually at Snell's Beach, which is just a beautiful spot north of Auckland, about 2 hours. Now, just as an example of opportunity, I called into a food market there, which is next door to the warehouse in Snell's Beach. Now, it was a very small food market, and by the time I got in there wasn't actually much to choose from, and I'm being very generous when I say there wasn't much to choose from. I actually wondered what its purpose was, to be fair, but I was able to get a couple of things together and be on my way. But before I left, the wonderful woman behind the counter said, look, I'm the owner and we are considered an essential service, so please take the slip of paper with you. It's got my email address on it, and if you need anything, just email me. And I'm like, okay, cool. So a few days later, I emailed her, and given I didn't think she had much and I was trying to be as helpful as I possibly could, I just sent her an email saying, hi, I'm on my own. I'm in the motorhome down on Snell's Beach, and I just need 3 types of vegetables and just some fruit for my veggie bowl. And it's just me. And sent that on its way. And I got an email back, and I could tell she was maybe a little bit stressed. She was looking for more clarification. So I'm like, okay, I'm not sure how this is going to go, but broccoli would be good. I'm cutting back on my carbs, so no potatoes, and just, bananas, maybe apples, tomato, eggs and milk. And if you had tea bags, that'd be good as well. Got another email back, and, this one was really, pushing me for quantity. And I'm like, come on, it's just me, and I was really trying to give her the opportunity to create an order for me. And I didn't want to be a hassle. I wasn't being smart. I wasn't being awkward. The last thing I wanted it to be was difficult. I thought I was doing right by her by giving her the ability to just fill my order. If I get some vegetables and some fruit, I'll be very grateful. I ended up going into the shop, although not into the shop because she didn't actually allow you to go in. It was kind of like you handed the groceries and you paid sort of by the thing outside the door. Anyway, long story short, she emailed me back later that day and apologized for maybe how she'd handled the situation. And it's cool because, like, I get it, we're all under stress. And a couple of emails later, when she was more genuine about her apology, because I was so incredibly nice and supportive, she felt even worse. And she said, look, I really want to make it up to you. And I'm like, hun, you don't need to. It's all good. But can I just share with you this? In a crisis comes opportunity. Next week, you and your customers will be better sorted for this new business. She doesn't have an ordering system. She'd only just decided to start taking orders via the email. And so I said to her, my observation of Snell's Beach is that people are awesome. I mean, they could not have been more hospitable. They were incredibly generous and chatty with their social distancing. As I sat, that's why I have the tan. I sat outside and worked many hours outside my motorhome. And I said to her, one of my observations are that this is, quite a mature catchment. And I would suggest to you that the older people that you serve are most likely to keep social distancing much longer than the rest of the country. That being the case, you have fallen on a new way of doing business. This new way of doing business is to take people's orders over the internet. Your margins will be better. You'll have more efficiency. So just enjoy the experience. Next week, you'll be better prepared. Your customers will be better prepared. But you may not ever open your doors again. This is probably the best thing that could have happened to you. And so I guess what I'd share is that we're all packing our pants. Nobody's really got any idea except that it's going to be worse than we think. But in those times, a clear mind will find really smart opportunities. On our own website, I was watching a lovely couple, Hamish and his wife, down in Christchurch, and they have launched Maker to You. Now, you know, I encourage you, if you've got a subscription to NBR, and I'm sorry, it is paywall, but that's how I pay my journalists, not advertising. It was a really interesting story. They actually brought the business model forward. Now, they've been working on it for a couple of years, but what's genius about this business and this business opportunity and launching it now is they really struggled to get buy-in from the makers, which is the function of their service. They're basically saying makerstoyou.com. That's what they call makertoyou.com. So how do we cut out the middleman, and how do we give these makers of fine products a digital window to sales? Now, as I said, they've been working on it for 2 years. What they found was they were really pushing it uphill to try and get people that already had successful sales channels in place to come on board. Well, guess what? With the COVID-19 crisis, those traditional channels have been shut down. So all of a sudden, those people with premium brands and products who would have, you know, put up their nose to something like this as not worth my time, not really of any great importance, there all of a sudden was nothing more important than engaging with these directors to get on their platform. So what that means is, what they've very sensibly done is said, hey, listen, ordinarily our fee would be 13%. We don't think we should be profiting from you right now. It's just 10%. And bear in mind that 10% that is paid to the company actually pays for the credit card transactions as well. So there's very little money going to the operators of this business. But what they are doing right now is they are really cementing future long-term, trusted, respected relationships. Money doesn't buy that opportunity, but meeting the needs of a crisis does.
Yeah, I actually did read that article, and that they're like a farmer's market but online, and they've taken a really traditional way of the community coming together and selling these, you know, these artisan products, and they've moved it into a really contemporary way of reaching your audience, and in doing so, they're well placed to see its market share once this comes about. I've noticed that, you know, now that we're into week 2, we're coming into, you know, heading towards week 3, everyone's getting used to actually working remotely, being around the family more, ordering the groceries online, suddenly like stuffing the kids in the car, heading over to the supermarket, arguing about not buying those lollies, waiting in the queues. That's kind of less appealing now. And I agree, like that, like your supermarket lady being open to meeting your clients or customers on their level and where they want to be now, not where they've always been. You know, like Market to You they'll be ready to seize market share.
Absolutely. And if you look at it now, you know, the government, the coalition government, have sort of loosened the rules around essential services. So you are now seeing the ability for bakers and butchers and veggie stores to operate, but if they have a digital platform. Who does? You know, you know, the first job out of school when I was 15, 16 was an apprentice butcher. You know, that's not really traditionally a digital environment. So, you know your craft, keep specializing in what you do. And now, because of this opportunity coming up, these people have been given a lifeline. It's not going to pay the bills and the staff quite like what ordinary trading would. But if it weren't for people like this being, you know, and I think that the important thing here is that these people, this couple, saw an opportunity to do good, to act compassionately, to serve a need. And I think what we'll all get out of this crisis, and we're not going to be out of it for a long time, it'll have a very long flow-on effect. I mean, people are talking about a recession. We're past that. There is no doubt in my mind this will be a depression. And I don't mean to make you feel worse I encourage you to think differently.
Yeah.
If you can't operate your business now the way you used to, how could you operate your business? Think outside the square. You don't have to, if your customer base has to go somewhere else for something else, why aren't you providing that service?
Mm.
Your customers already have a relationship with you. Why would you insist the inconvenience of them having to go and deal with somebody else? So ask yourself, what are my customers that I'm serving now, what else do they need? Where else are they going? How could I offer value? Not how can I make more money? How could I help them? How could I make things simple? How could I streamline things? Focus on the mission and not the commission. And, you're leading towards something that's more meaningful. And I think that's what I think as a nation, as a globe, we are going to come out of this crisis thinking very, very differently. I hope that my landlord is watching or not watching. Because guess what, dude? I'm not going to re-sign my lease next year. We have proven that our workforce can work incredibly well from home.
Mm.
Now, what I will say is that I have to take into consideration that the older demographic of my team, they're very comfortable with this. The younger, not so. So, I'll set up a studio so that they're able to operate from there, but my journalists and everybody else will actually just work from home. And instead of spending $260,000 a year on a lease for a building, for an office space in central Auckland, I'll just spend some money on improving the technology that our team are accessing and using from home. There's no travel time. Their diets are better, I hope. I've seen some of the things coming out. But it's just, it's better all around. I think our thinking is going to be very different coming out the other side of this crisis.
Yeah. Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And one thing socially, like that I'm seeing, I go out with my family walking, and I'm seeing teddy bears in the windows, and that's sort of in the family life, and in the professional life, like LinkedIn, we're seeing communities coming together, offering information and sharing knowledge with people who otherwise their business might be struggling. They're saying, hey, I'll help you with your web design, I'll help you with your marketing strategy, and as a community we're reaching out a lot more now that we're isolated, and we're connecting a lot more, and we're going to want to hold on to that.
Absolutely. I thought you were going to say that while you're out walking with the family, you actually saw the Minister of Health actually out on his bike ride. Look, I agree. Things have definitely changed, and you know what? I reckon this is a wonderful opportunity for us to reset. I really, really do. I'll tell you that I've been a bit of a ratbag on social media in the past. Don't Google my name. People think I'm a madman. I think differently, and I certainly am thinking differently about the power of social media now. I was a bit of an antagonist, 18 months, 2 years ago, and with this crisis, I saw it as an opportunity to not only do my job and support my team, but also to do what I could to, I guess, encourage people to think differently at this time. Now is not a great time for politicking. And it doesn't matter if you're left or right, blue, green, black, blue. Did I mention red? This isn't the time. I mean, you could argue, well, actually, Todd, it is, because we need to hold our leaders to account. And yes, it is time for politicians to do their job, not for us. We should get them behind our leaders. And that was something that I did fairly early on with Twitter, which can be a pretty nasty sort of an environment. And I guess most people, because I own the National Business Review, would wrongly assume that we are, a right-leaning, blue-leaning supportive publication. That is simply not true. The National Business Review supports and encourages good business policy. Any policy that encourages and supports and benefits and gets them behind, the operation of business and commerce, will support those ideas. So I went out pretty early and, guys, let's just back off the slating of the PM. Duncan Garner stating that our PM should have the balls to vote on cannabis. I mean, that quite frankly is just gutter journalism, absolutely appalling from any broadcaster, and frankly, I'm just ashamed because, you know, for so many reasons I don't have to explain. The obvious being how offensive to the PM, who I think is doing a great job, but really is now the time to be concerned about who can and can't smoke pot. I mean, so I went out early and I got people to, look, don't criticise the PM, support her in her decision making. If you believe that the country should go into stage 4 faster, then get in behind, get in behind making that hashtag stage 4 faster trend. And I'm really proud that we got that trending. It sent a message to the PM that we're behind you. You're concerned about making this decision, but we're behind you. So it's not a time to criticise, it's a time to get in behind your leaders. And it's a time for us all to just really reflect on things are going to be reshaped. Our futures are going to be reshaped. Our national airline is going to be reshaped. When it comes back, it will be domestically focused. How wonderful will that be? Instead of gouging us to get around our own country, they'll be making it more attractive. They'll be putting on more flights. They'll have less an international focus. You know, as a nation, we're crying out for more infrastructure. Guess what? When you don't have the levels of influx of tourism because of this crisis, we don't have a problem with our infrastructure. Now, I'm not saying let's not encourage tourism, but let's raise the bar. You know, I'm sitting with you having this conversation in a motorhome. I love travelling around the country. Guess what? Most New Zealanders don't like getting in behind motorhomes. You know, most New Zealanders don't like the fact that we have people freedom camping and in their opinions, bludgeoning. Well, I guess when we're putting such a strain on our infrastructure, it kind of is, because these people are taking the cheap option. They go to the supermarkets and they buy noodles, and so they don't really spend a lot of money. So again, it's an opportunity for us to go, well, how do we want to shape our futures? How do we want to live? You know, seeing dads, one of my concerns at the moment is the amount of dads that I'm seeing on the roads teaching their young kids to ride bikes. Now, that's great that you're doing that, but maybe not on the roads, and especially not the steep ones. That's not a good time to teach your kid how to apply the brakes. So if you have enjoyed aspects of the isolation and the togetherness, then, you know, this is your chance to look at how do you want to change things. If you're out of a job, if you can't afford to meet your house repayments, I'm not making light of this. But when you get your head around that reality, and when you get your head around that you are not the only person, how do you want to live tomorrow? How do you want to live the week after? How do you want to live the next 12 months? Because, dude, you're not alone. A lot of people are going through this heartache with you. So this is the time for you to reconsider what you want out of life. You know, what do you want to be doing to earn money? How much do you need to earn? How can you earn it? How can you help other people earn it? How can you serve people? How can you make money from serving people? Concentrate on the mission, not the commission.
Yeah.
It's been great chatting with you.
I know, it's just so good. I agree, and I'm going to write that down. Concentrate on the mission, not the commission. Yeah.
It's a really valuable lesson. I've had a pretty successful career in sales, and the only mistakes I ever made were when I was put under pressure to generate more. And you know, generally that was driven by somebody else's need, not my own. Yeah. Because personally, I've never really, money to me is just, it's a yardstick. And I don't want to sound crass or like a blowhard, but you know, I've always believed, because when you're in sales, if you need more money, you just go out and sell more, or you just go out and do more work. And I understand that's the beautiful thing about sales. When you're on a set salary, there's not much you can do except, you know, exceed expectation and hope for the next pay round that you get, some acknowledgement. But when you're actually in commission sales, you largely get to control that. And as I said, the only mistakes I've ever made in sales when I lost focus of the mission, and I focused on the commission. You know, park that up, and you know, just go out there and make a difference. You know, go out there and try to help people. Go out there and find something that genuinely does help people. And do you know what? When you do find that thing, it's not sales. You know, I've met so many people that have said, "Oh, I couldn't sell," and I'd argue with anybody that that is simply not true. Now, you could be an early year child teacher. I don't know what they call them these days. Is that right? An early
Something like that.
something like that.
Yeah.
Now, and you know, working at preschools, that could be something you do passionately, and you say, "Well, you know, I'm great at looking after kids, but I couldn't sell." Well, that's a blatant lie, and you don't realise you're making it. Because guess what? Tell me how much you love your job. Tell me how much it means that you do the job that you do when mums and dads drop the kids off before they go to work. Because I know that you see the tears of the mums and dads before they leave, and of the children after they've left. How important is your job? How good do you feel when you get to stop those tears? How good do you feel that the quality of life that child has, and the quality of life that the mum and dad are able to provide their family, how good do you feel? Now tell me, how good do you feel? You've just sold your services. Everybody's a salesperson, and those that believe they aren't, you simply haven't had the opportunity to sell what you're passionate about.
Thank you. I really appreciate your insights, Todd, and I agree with so much of your sentiments. Thank you.
Look, the last thing I'd say, and it's by no means a plug, because you know, depending on what your needs are as you watch the series of insightful interviews, you need to consider that, you know, there's some really drastic things going on at the moment, and there have been for some time. But you know, a lot of people caught out with the Bauer decision to shut down, and you know, for those that are still bagging Bauer, I just sort of caution you to go, well, hey, you know, it's one thing for the government to say, but they didn't ask for the $500,000 loan, and they didn't ask for the subsidies. Well, guess what? You know, I'm somebody that, you know, I own a media company, and a much smaller one than Bauer, who have about 237 staff. That money that was available, they would have chewed through that in a matter of weeks. They simply knew that their time was up. They simply knew that that model was up. And the reason that is so is because media that is reliant on advertising and hasn't pivoted to selling their content and not the space are in big trouble. So if you respect, appreciate, and value any media that you are able to support with a paid subscription, I would implore you to do that. I really would. And from me to you, a gift. We are in the next couple of days, so that by the time that you are watching this, in fact, right now, you can go to mbr.co.nz, and there is actually a free-to-wear online business stream that is discussing the challenges and the opportunities, the what next and whys of COVID-19. It is a free for all online at MBR. No ads, just a stream of really insightful interviews, probably not too dissimilar to this, except maybe more people, better looking, and possibly better experience, with more experience. I've got life experience. I'm a qualified butcher. That seriously is my qualification. I did not attend a single class in my 5th form year. I worked in the tuck shop for 2 weeks, and then I went round to the classes that I was supposed to be attending with my leaving certificate, with the scoffs from the back of the room. And it's kind of ironic today that I employ people with degrees that have got nothing to do with the jobs they're employed to do. So we all have an equal opportunity, but more so today than ever before. There's a lot of people out there that are hurting. There's a lot of people out there that don't know what next. There are a lot of people out there that are looking for something. And my experience is those that don't give up never fail. You know, I mean, I'll leave you with this. I am willing to do today what others will not do so that I can do tomorrow what others cannot do. I am willing to do today what others will not do so that I can do tomorrow. No, I see, I just stuffed that up.
What others cannot do. No,
I'm
you
willing
did
to do
that.
today what others will not do so that I can do tomorrow what others cannot do.
Yeah.
And the other one is not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. What does all this mean? Nothing. What about this one? You feel the way you do because that's the way you feel. And right now, that's a really powerful one because we're all probably feeling miserable. I don't know about the quality of sleep you're getting. I might appear a positive person. I might appear somebody that really has it together. And I've got a business model right now that I'm very, very grateful for. But man, I'm having some hideous dreams. I'm actually really pleased to be waking up in the middle of the night to make myself a cup of tea. You feel the way you do because that's the way you feel. And there's nothing wrong with it. You don't have to explain it to anybody, least of all yourself. Just accept it. Go easy on yourself. Be kind. We'll get through this.
I agree.
Lovely talking.
Yeah, and you. Thank you.